I had been with my ex-partner for 19 and a half years. I had 2 children when I met him. The abuse began when I noticed a change in his behaviour about 3 to 4 months into our relationship. He was on the phone and he lost his temper and he began to hit himself with the phone. He was never physically abusive towards me, but he had a gambling addiction and he had credit card debts that I wasn't aware of immediately. In the past, he'd worked as a doorman and he could be quite intimidating. He was financially abusive towards me and was very controlling. We both received employment support allowance. It was a joint claim and it was paid to him, and he would refuse to give me any money. I often found myself without money and was forced to use a food bank. I still had child tax credit, but with this, I had to pay for everything. This included all the children's clothes, food, their school trips, rent, and anything else. He often controlled what the children and me could do, and he would prevent me mixing with other people. He would prevent me from meeting his family. He was very private, and we were never allowed to discuss our home life with anybody. We lived in fear that we would always say the wrong thing. This caused me to become withdrawn, and the children weren't allowed to have any friends over. This caused the children to lose friendships. This isolated the children too. He would open my mail, but he would hide his own. He would keep the children up late at night to reprimand them for any bad behaviour during that day. This could go on for hours, and the children and I would often be tired the next day. I was not allowed to hug the children when they were upset, and he'd often pick arguments, and he wouldn't allow me to leave a room until I listened to what he had to say, and he would stand in doorways preventing me from leaving. He would puff his chest up and he just intimidated me, and he'd often make threats and implied that if I left, something really horrible would happen to me, and I was always in fear of trying to leave the relationship. I realised I needed to end the relationship when I became aware that my ex-partner was having an affair. He was in lots of debt and the bills were continuing to come that I was forced to pay. I did face some obstacles. I did report my abuse to other agencies and other people. They downplayed the abuse, and because it wasn't physical and I had no bruises or marks, it wasn't always taken seriously. It made me doubt whether I was suffering abuse, therefore I was in the relationship far longer than I should have been. I reported the abuse to my landlord, Onward Homes. I worked with the Safer Neighbourhoods team at Onward. I was allocated a Safer Neighbourhood specialist, and they really listened to me. The Onward specialist made a domestic abuse referral. I also accepted support from the social investment team at Onward, who provided me with food parcels and babies' nappies when I had no money. I'm working with the Women's Centre and I'm now receiving domestic abuse counselling. My ex-partner has now left the property and he's assigned it to me. My neighbourhood specialist at Onward Homes completed all the necessary paperwork in order for this to happen. I'm now in full control of my own life. I do have some debt and arrears to pay off, but my children and I no longer live in fear of future debt or emotional abuse.